After 45 years of rule, Yu would die in Mount Kuaiji while on a hunting tour. His son, Qi, would succeed him, but only after 3 years of mourning. Right as he became king, a rebellion broke out when a disloyal local prince raised an army to defy or overthrow the dynasty. But the rebellion was quelled following the rebel defeat at the Battle of Gan. Years later, Qi would banish his youngest son, Wu Guan, for spreading fake news and disinformation, only for Wu Guan to raise an army and lead another rebellion until he was defeated by the king's army led by one of Qi's most trusted ministers. Qi was succeeded by his son Tai Kang, who was a bad ruler, had the capital of the dynasty, Zhenshun, raided by barbarians, and drowned at a lake after a very short reign. Tai was succeeded by his brother Zhang Kang, who had a very peaceful and uneventful reign and is most known for executing his royal astronomers after they had failed to predict a solar eclipse. He was then succeeded by his son Shang. Shang's reign was marked by corruption, unpopular decisions, and the rising threat of barbarians, violent warlords and raiders who defied the king's will. Shang would find relative success in containing and civilizing some of these barbarian tribes, but did not find success dealing with the largest and most dangerous barbarian warlord of all, Hu Yi, not to be confused with the deity of same name, infamous for capturing the capital of Zhenshun all those years back in Tai Kang's rule. However, Hu would be overthrown by his lieutenant Han Zhuo, a feared warrior with ambitions of overthrowing the king. Han Zhuo's barbarian army invaded Xia territory, defeating the king's army, capturing the capital, and proclaiming himself as king, raising taxes and ruling over the kingdom with tyranny and oppression. Shang was on the run following the demise of his forces until he was found, captured, and killed. Since Shang was the last known member of his dynasty, all assumed that the Xia dynasty had died with him. However, Shang had a wife named Ji, who was pregnant at the time. She had successfully escaped the king's palace when it was invaded by barbarians and escaped to her father's estate, where she gave birth to her son in secrecy, naming him Shao Kang. Rumors of a survivor of the Xia dynasty reached Han Zhuo, who sent assassins to Shao's residence, forcing him to escape and flee to the northern regions of the kingdom. He would find refuge in a tribe that happened to oppose Han Zhuo. Shao would tell the tribal chief of his ancestry and birthright, which convinced the chief to have Shao marry his daughter and granted him possession of over 40 square kilometers of land for him to rule over. Rumors of a survivor of the Xia dynasty founding his own city would reach a man named Mi, who was an old minister of King Shang that had been using his immense treasury to plot an overthrow of the tyrannical King Han Zhuo. Mi's fortune and experience would help Shao create a decently sized army that actually stood a chance against the tyrant's forces. When Han Zhuo heard of this, he was absolutely infuriated and gathered the largest army the kingdom had ever seen to destroy Shao's forces and the last remnants of the Xia. Both of their armies would meet, and despite all odds being against him, Shao defeated the king's army. This defeat would lead to mass routs and desertions, with Shao's army reaching the fortified citadel that Zhuo was hiding. But the people within the citadel just opened the gates for Shao because they hated Han Zhuo that much. Sensing defeat, Han Zhuo committed unaliving, and thus Shao Kang restored the Xia dynasty. After numerous ceremonies, King Shao would have a peaceful reign until his death. However, Shao's descendants were not as blessed as he was. Despite the relative political stability of the post-Shao Xia dynasty, the kingdom was becoming increasingly more corrupt and reliant on their vassals to quell the rebellions and barbarian invasions, leading to said vassals gaining more influence and becoming more and more demanding with the king. The most notorious of these vassals being the Shang tribe. After hundreds of years of rule, the Xia dynasty's decadence culminated in the reign of King Xie. Xie was a complete and utter degenerate. He would have a lavish lifestyle, countless wives, and built an alcohol lake where hundreds of naked men and women would have orgies while bathing and drinking. One day, he would demand 3,000 men to drink the lake dry and then laugh his ass off watching them all die from drowning or alcohol poisoning. One time, the representative of the Yuming kingdom, one of the Xia's vassals, failed to appear in a meeting, so King Xie ordered his army to invade the kingdom. During Xie's reign, the Shang were becoming increasingly more powerful. Their ruler, Tang, would see the tyrannical and degenerate actions of King Xie and plotted a revolt against the king. Shang would get the support of many of the other vassals of the kingdom, eventually escalating in a war between the Xia and the Shang. The Shang would capture the eastern territories of the Xia until they faced King Xie's forces in the Battle of Mingtao. The thought of a vassal winning a battle against the king would be ludicrous in previous times, but the Shang actually struck a decisive victory against the Xia, as the demoralized forces of the king all deserted or surrendered immediately as they saw the enemy in the horizon, because no one wanted to die for the sake of this guy. King Xie would make a run for it as he fled to the west, until he was captured by soldiers loyal to the Shang who forced him to abdicate. Xie would be arrested for the crimes against his people, until he was released and passed away shortly after due to illness, thus marking the end of the Xia Dynasty and the beginning of the Shang Dynasty.